Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak today on the motion before the House regarding the NDIS service delivery arrangements and to make clear the importance of getting these settings right for both participants and providers. The National Disability Insurance Scheme is one of the most significant social reforms in our nation's history. It is changing lives, helping more than 717,000 Australians with disability to live more independently, to work, to study, to exercise real choice and control over their lives. That is something the Parliament should always be proud of. But we also know that with such major national reform, we must always be working to strengthen the scheme. And I remain committed to playing my role on behalf of my community in Maribyrnong, those who rely on the NDIS, those who work in it, and all involved. It is incumbent on all of us in this place to ensure that the NDIS goes from strength to strength. And that, Deputy Speaker, is what this government is focused on. The recent annual pricing review was about making NDIS pricing fairer, more transparent and more consistent with what other Australians pay. The review analysed over 10 million therapy transactions, benchmarks against Medicare, private health insurance and 13 comparable government schemes. It found what we had long heard about anecdotally, that there are those on the NDIS, that there was an NDIS equivalent of a wedding tax afoot, that people with disability were too often, being charged far more for the same services, sometimes nearly 70% more. Deputy Speaker, that's not fair. People with disability should not be asked to pay more than any other Australian for life-changing supports like physiotherapy, podiatry or occupational therapy. And it is also not fair that high and unclear travel claims were eating into people's budgets, limiting their access to other vital supports. Deputy Speaker, let me specifically address the claims made in this motion about transport allowances. The facts are clear. No other comparable scheme compensates the therapist for travel as generously as the NDIS. Providers can claim up to half the therapy rate for travel time, around $90 an hour, on top of kilometre allowances, tolls, parking and even flights and accommodation for remote areas. To suggest otherwise is simply false. And let's not forget, when those opposite were in government, they did nothing to fix travel access for participants in regional and remote communities. For them to now cry foul on transport is nothing short of hypocrisy. This government, unlike the coalition, is dealing with the issue honestly, ensuring fairness for participants, while still recognising the extra challenges faced by rural and remote Australians. The changes we are making through this review mean that participants will pay fairer prices. They mean our frontline disability support workers will get the pay rise they deserve, and they mean that dodgy providers who seek to overcharge will no longer be able to do so unchecked. Now, I understand there has been some concern around the speed of these changes and how providers and participants will adjust. More than 4,500 providers attended virtual information sessions in June and July, and peak organisations such as the Australian Physiotherapy Association, National Disability Services and the National Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation have also been consulted directly. We also know that there are unique challenges in our rural and remote communities. That is why the scheme continues to provide generous travel loadings, 40% in remote areas and 50% in very remote areas, well above what is provided under comparable schemes. And where necessary, participants in these areas can agree to cover additional transport costs, such as flights or accommodation, to ensure access supports. Deputy Speaker, we should be clear. No comparable scheme, as I said, compensates travel as generously as the NDIS. But we must also strike the balance, ensuring fairness for participants, protecting taxpayer investment and, importantly, the sustainability of the scheme for generations to come. This government will always work in good faith with the disability community. We will consult, listen and to adjust where needed. But let us not lose sight of the bigger picture. These changes are about fairness, transparency and strengthening the NDIS for the people it serves. Because at the heart of this debate are Australians with disability. Australians who deserve dignity of fair pricing, who deserve to see their budgets go further and who deserve a scheme that will endure for decades to come. I commend the government's approach and I commend this House to keep participants, their families and the sustainability of the NDIS at the centre of this discussion. Thank you.